Hello, everybody. This is your favorite host, Grimo, Gabe, or Curly. We got two new members, Sean and Lasso. We've seen Sean before. And today, we will interview the amazing Stephen Trumble. He is a comedian, a freelance writer, and a artist. Wow. If you see Batman Broken Promises, you will see how phenomenal this guy is. He freaking kills it. So, should we get started?
Sure. Oh my God, that's an amazing intro. Thank you so much. Jesus Christ.
10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Yeah, and now what follows is like an hour of like a bumbling English guy being unable to accept praise. It's fantastic.
Who doesn't love an English accent though?
Oh yeah, exactly. Well,
hey,
yeah.
Look at Stephen Grant from Moon Knight.
There you go. Yeah. My waking life and dreams. I should just go to America and just act like that, and people would be like, "Yeah, that tracks. That follows."
Hey, it works for Tom Holland.
Yeah, I guess it did, didn't it?
All right.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's lovely to be here. Thank you.
It's fantastic. Funny enough, Sean and Lasso and we are in a group chat where we just talk about geek stuff. And one of our friends, he's very critical about Batman content. He does not like when people ruin Batman for him. He will fight, and he's one of those comic book lovers. He will fight anybody for Batman. So when he showed, he sent a link to your YouTube, and he was actually praising it. I was like, there's no way. He never praises anybody.
Yeah, he hates everything.
That's
exactly.
So
he is a professional hater, but the fact that he totally, he showed your content, I was like, I have to see it. And then I watched it and I had to share it to all my friends.
You got to love people that don't suffer fools, because if people who don't suffer fools suffer you, it means that you aren't a fool. It's such a nice feeling, because I've spent most of my life feeling like I am a bit of a fool. Like I've got a kind of I've always felt a little bit kind of like, oh, I don't know about this, I don't know about that. And like the reaction that this has gotten has been kind of overwhelmingly positive. Like we kind of don't have yet. I mean, they're coming. Don't get me wrong, they're coming, but we haven't had like a 100% hater yet. You know what I mean? We've had people who've had niggles and things they didn't like about it or whatever, or sometimes people will just come and randomly start talking about something else, as they do. They'll be like, here's what I think, this. I know it doesn't have anything to do with the film, but I'm like, okay, well, thanks for your comment. But
thank you for
most of them, they've all been nice. And it's like, we're at 94,740 views. You know what I mean? And that's, 2,000 to 3,000 comments, and I almost don't have the machinery in my head to know how to handle like a reaction like that. It's kind of crazy. I was expecting a lot more hate, and as I say, now that I've said that, it will come. The backlash will come. I'm sure it will.
Someone's gonna comment hate just on this podcast, just so that they can attack you. And
like people will watch this and they'll be like, "Oh, he seems happy, but let's crush that."
Fuck his happiness.
He thinks he's done something good. We need let's call some guys.
Make sure
but no, that's so kind. So so your friend recommended it to you. And he liked it.
Yes,
they liked it. That's fantastic.
So let me actually try to pull up the exact words that he said, because usually he doesn't compliment stuff. He's one of those people that just kind of criticizes more than he compliments. And the fact that he just went on and said like, "Oh, this is something actually good." Hold on, let me try to find it. It is wonderful. I was super excited once he said that. Then I watched it, sent it to a group chat I'm with Gabe. And I'm pretty sure like Gabe fell in love with it too.
Dude, let me just say, because I was on my way, I was going to the train from my class to just going back home. And I was like, all right, let me take the time, because Grim sent it over. Let me at least give it a look, right? So I give it a look, and I was just enjoying it because it made me feel like this looks like a trailer to like an animated, like one of those animated films that like they had to put like on DVD or something. And it just looks, I was just like, this looks great. Wow.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
The style that it gave me was just like, this feels like it's coming from a comic, and then it's like just ripping straight off from the comic, and it's just animating it. And I loved that.
Yeah.
I like that kind of style.
I mean, I'm so happy that people have responded well to the art style, because it's like, it's playing into my limitations, really. Like it's like but when I started animating it, genuinely, I didn't have any animation software apart from Adobe Animate. And I didn't even have like a big tablet, that you would like draw into frames on something like Toon Boom or something like that. I did by the end of the process, but for the first half, it was me hand drawing frames on paper and then scanning them in and coloring them in Photoshop and then placing them into Adobe Animate to create like some of those shots, you know what I mean? And so, and because of that, I don't have like a team of like cleanup artists and, because, in professional animated stuff, you have a whole team of people whose job is just to go over all the lines and make sure there's no mistakes and stuff. So I immediately knew like, I'm not going to be able to make this to the quality that, like a Disney film. So how about I just lean into that? It's a comic book. It's based on a graphic, it's based on a graphic novel style. So let's make it sketchy. Let's embrace that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And luckily, I think it came off really well because it's like sometimes you can see where I've accidentally like done the wrong line, or you can see like mistakes. And even in like Batman the Animated Series, the old 90s one, you'd see mistakes all the time because they had lots of money behind them, but they didn't have a lot of time. They had to keep going. You know what I mean? If they shot a shot and Batman's cape wasn't colored in properly, they didn't have time to go back and do it again. Like it would just, there are shots where you just see something has gone a little bit wrong, but it doesn't matter because you fucking love it. Yeah. And it's got that like handmade quality. I think so much of art is like properly, it can be forgiven as long as it feels tactile and real. And it's so weird that there's a lot of animated stuff. Like I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but like a lot of animated stuff, not even like superhero stuff, where the art is almost so good that it almost alienates you. It's too clinical. It's a little bit too sleek, And I love anything where you can see the sketch. You can see like that a human being kind of inputted that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that is, I've already gone off on a huge rant. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
You guys were talking.
It's part
this is going to happen like 80 times. I apologize.
No, so going back real quick to what my friend said. So posted the clip, no context. We were not even talking. He just posted the clip. Someone instantly said, "Oh, I've already seen that. It is nice as fuck." And he instantly agreed, which, again, when someone is very critical, he instantly agreed. He liked that message. And then I was like, everybody's loving it. So I went to see it immediately. I'm like, nice. Wow, that is phenomenal. Sent you a message immediately. I'm like, yep, I got to get this guy on the podcast because he did such an amazing job. And I want to do an amazing job at promoting it. I want people to feel like I did, where I just saw something and I wasn't expecting it to be so great as it was. So
yeah, bless you, man. Yeah. That's so sweet. Thanks so much. I'm very happy. Like, it's basically exactly what I wanted. Like all I really wanted was for Batman fans to like it and then to hopefully let me know that they liked it. You know what I mean? Like I remember I was in a counseling session. I go to counseling, and someone said, the counselor said, like, what do you want from this? Like, what do you actually want? And I was like, I just want Batman fans to tell me that they thought it was Batman. You know what I mean? Like, that was essentially all I wanted. Yep. You know what I mean? And that's what has happened. So now I've got to deal with the psychological ramifications of getting what I wanted. But no, it's so wonderful to hear because, as you know, like there are people who care a lot about Batman, and there are people who, like, no matter what Batman you show them, it won't beat their Batman, or it won't. Like they're people who kind of. It's almost a metaphor. I mean, like, not to get too like subtextual or whatever, but there's almost like a metaphor in the film about the polarization, the fact that people have to have all these extreme opinions about everything, and the idea that, like, no one's position can exist if the other one's position is allowed to exist as well. So there's kind of a bit of that kind of thrown in there. Because I remember growing up, and Batman's always been in my life. And I remember, like, one of my favorite Batman films, bar none, is Batman Forever. Like the one with, like, Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face and Jim Carrey as the Riddler. I saw that when I can't remember how old I was, but it must have been like maybe like 11 or 12 or something. And fuck, I just loved it. You know what I mean? Like, I absolutely adored that film. And I feel like I don't know if you guys have experienced this, because I feel like you guys are a bit younger than me, but I feel very lucky because I'm 36. So I basically think that I have been the perfect age to watch whatever Batman is the recent Batman. So when I was a kid, there were like reruns of the 1966, like really silly Batman. Then I'm a young adolescent, Batman the animated series comes out. You know, growing up a little bit more, Tim Burton's making this gothic Batman, and then the Joel Schumacher Batman films, and then I just start to get like past it. When Batman and Robin comes out, and I'm like, oh, that was actually pretty shit. You know, like I didn't really enjoy it. Obviously, then I reclaimed it as like the camp masterpiece that it is. And then I become like, I'm like a late teens going into film school. Christopher fucking Nolan shows up and it's like, fuck yeah. So it's like, and then, and now we're getting to this point where we've gone even beyond that. And now it's like, now we're almost going back in time sometimes where it's like, Zack Snyder comes and makes it like this kind of rad kind of like teenage gamer kind of fantasy world, and then we've got Matt Reeves, who's like, ready for your midlife crisis kind of, Batman. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I just feel so fortunate because everyone else out there is all arguing over who the best Batman is. And it's like, I've had all the Batman. Yeah, and I was like, I was just the right age to see it in the right way, and they all have value. They're all Batman. You know what I mean? It's wonderful. I forgot why I started this tangent, but one of you guys say something.
I think when it comes to like picking, like if people pick like, oh, what's their favorite Batman? What's their favorite like sort of like superhero to follow? It's hard for people to just like pick one, and I think that's kind of weird because as art develops and as like things grow, different interpretations will appear. So just sticking to one doesn't really seem that fun to me.
Yeah, it's not the way it is in comics, is it?
No, like I personally, one of my favorite Batmans is Batman from Brave and the Bold.
Oh, amazing!
Like, it's like that campy feeling that I grew up with because it made me learn characters like Booster Gold, Green Arrow, Blue Beetle, that I would never know from anywhere else.
Yeah, isn't that like one of the only Batman shows where there's actually a kind of catharsis with Joe Chill in one episode?
Yes.
I haven't actually watched. Episode. I haven't watched Brave and the Bold. I'm more of a Bruce Timm guy and Justice League, so I kind of skipped over.
That's oh my god, that's another.
Yeah, that's him. That's him.
I am a big Timm fan pre-52 because I just love his whole trope of being the perfect Robin. And they've been ruining that and trying to like make him not know who he is. But I used to love that he knew who he was. And the reason why he was with Batman is because he knew Batman needed a Robin. And I love Tim. So hearing that someone else is a Tim fan, it makes me happy and a little blood.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man, like the Tim Drake Robin. Yeah, big time, man. Yeah, I mean, because like I always like the Robin kind of idea of like, Batman needs Robin and Robin needs Batman, and the idea that I think the Tim Drake Robin really nailed the fact that if Batman hadn't trained him to be Robin, he would have just gone out and gotten himself killed. Same with Dick Grayson, actually. Like the animated series was the first people to make Robin actually seem like it could happen in the world, Yeah. I mean that said, I did a job for One Championship. I did an animated promo for them for a fight between Stamp Fairtex and Angela Lee. I was looking at the background of them, and they were all fighters from when they were kids. And like Stamp Fairtex was like a Muay Thai like kid star. And I see this footage of essentially like this 7-year-old beating the shit out of another 7-year-old. And I was like, okay, so Robin could happen. Like you could actually do it. I mean, you'd have to be crazy, but you can train somebody to be that good at fighting people from that age. It's insane. And they kind of grow up to be relatively well adjusted. They seem like cool people,
So I have a question on your filming. Yeah. Since we talked a little bit about just making a Batman in general for like filmmakers, and we also talked about Robin, I have two questions. The first is, what inspired you to make this type of Batman? Like, did you read? Well, obviously, you mentioned how the trailer for the Batman film inspired, but did you read something specifically from other comic books that said, all right, I kind of need to play on this storyline. I kind of need this part of Two-Face, and I need this part of the Ventriloquist. Like what made you do that? And then the next thing is, if you're willing to do another series, which Robin would you pick?
Oh, good questions. I love these questions. Okay. So influences. So just to get a little bit more context, the reason I started doing it, I saw the Batman. We were in lockdown. Everything was horrible in the world, Although one great thing is that I moved in with my girlfriend, Claire, who is Claire Wicks, who is the composer on the film. Her music, is unbelievable. But we're partners. We've been together. This is actually our anniversary today.
Happy anniversary!
Our first date was on Star Wars Day. I mean, how fucking crazy is that? I'm never going to forget my anniversary.
The force be with you.
Exactly. And we met in a pub, and she told me that she'd only seen Solo. that was our May the 4th date.
That's a terrible start.
It's better than me. I've watched Zero, so.
Well, good for you, man. Well, you and her would get on. She suffered through the Book of Boba Fett for me. That's how good a person she is. And she was just like, oh god, I turn my WhatsApp off. But she had a wonderful point about Han and Chewie, though. She was like, because she'd only seen Solo. She was like, wait a minute, why does Han become the pilot when Chewie's got 200 years of experience? It's such a white male privilege thing to do. Like, she was just like really angry about it. And I'm like, that's actually an excellent point. Why does Chewie just accept second place? He's the more qualified guy. Oh, anyway. So I met her. Yeah, exactly. I met her, 3 years ago to the day. And lockdown happened about like a year and a half into that. And so we had that weird decision that some people had to make of like, do you move in with your current, flame during lockdown, or do you not? And we were having such a good time together that we were like, no, let's do it. It wasn't even like an issue. We were just like, let's do it. So now, now I'm like 100% moved in, and it was lovely. It was fantastic. I understand, it probably broke quite a few relationships, the pandemic, but luckily that didn't happen with me. And she knew I was such a big Batman fan. And she realized that I was like drawing a lot of Batmobiles, because that's basically what I did in lockdown. I was like, I'm bored. I need to do something. So I just started drawing Batmobiles. And then the trailer for the Batman comes out, and I just loved it so much that I just started watching it over and over again. I started drawing more Batmobiles, and I started drawing Batman. And then I was like, you know what? I want to do some animation, because I'd done like a couple of previews because I'm a storyboard artist by trade, like concept artist, storyboard artist. And so I randomly had gotten a job from a guy who worked at BT Sports to do some animated promos for a Leon Edwards UFC fight. And so I did that animation. Although I didn't do the actual animation, I just drew the frames and somebody else animated it. But in doing that, I realized I could do Batman. He's just a boxer. Like, all the poses, they're just Batman poses. So, and I'd always wanted to do animation. I've always wanted to do animation, but I've just kind of felt like I wasn't qualified. So I downloaded, Adobe Animate, and I just started playing around. And of course, what do? I do a Batman shot, because it's the thing I know. And I do the shot that's actually in the film of him smashing the light, and then the light falls in front of him and he disappears. Those were the first two shots that I animated, and they're still in the movie. You know what I mean? I had to redraw Batman's face at one point, because I'd drawn him so often that his face had kind of changed by the time it got to the end of the film. And so that shot basically turned into like 5 shots that turned into a scene. Okay, so now Batman's beating up a bunch of guys. Okay, cool, great. Then it's like, oh, well, I could do more. Oh, I kind of want to put Two-Face in it, though. And I get the idea of like, I want to put Two-Face in it. And I'm like, no, because then now the film is going to be longer. And I thought, okay. And so I did that. And then I was like, oh, okay. So now it's like a 5-minute film. He beats up a bunch of guys. Then he fights Two-Face. And then I was like, oh, Two-Face should have 2 gangs, though, because he's Two-Face. But then I'm like, where's the other gang come from? So then suddenly it's like, oh, he's stolen another gang from another. And then it's like, which rogue? And you get this like thing where it's just kind of weirdly like reverse engineered it.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that a lot of the comments have said that they really like the story, because often that's not a very intelligent way of writing a story. Where basically Batman's fighting some thugs and you come up with a reason why he's doing it, essentially. I mean, I think the reason is, I think the reason is because, go for it.
To be fair, the way I see art is art. It doesn't matter how it started, where it's going. It just matters how it ended up being there. And to be like the whole way you thought it through is just phenomenal, because who does that? And the fact that it worked for you, it just shows, do what you have to do what makes you happy, and you all end up with awesome art like this.
Well, thanks, man. I mean, also I think it's like I think what I've realized is that I probably had been thinking about it like my whole life, but not really knowing it. So like when you think about like who's the villain, I immediately wanted to do Two-Face because I love Two-Face in Batman Forever, even though he's not very comic accurate in that. Yeah. And the fact that I did him with the kind of the glow in the dark paint on him is almost a reference to the kind of neon glow of that film. Yeah. That's my little, like, it's not, he doesn't have the bat nipples, but he is. Although he does kind of, if you look in one of the shots, there's like a little bit of plating on his chest that's almost like bat nipples. It's like, again, it's all Batman. I love it. So it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. So, but I wanted to give it almost like, Nicholas Riffin Winding or whatever his name is, the guy who did Bronson, give it that, kind of, only God forgives, neon thing. And I had that image of Two-Face in my head. And obviously, this was like the first book that I had when I was a kid. This is probably a bunch of old like very early Batman. It's all like Catwoman and Penguin and stuff. So Batman had always kind of been in my head artistically. And then obviously you got The Long Halloween, which was a huge influence because of Harvey. I was flipping through it again recently, and I realized there's actually a scene, because I'd read it years ago. There's actually a scene where they make a promise. You know what I mean? I was like, oh fuck, they actually made the promise together. You know what I mean? And that film also, spoilers, that comic ends like the film, in the Two-Face surrenders at the end of that. People don't really talk about that a lot, that Two-Face surrenders at the end of The Long Halloween. One of the big tragedies I think about Two-Face is that as a character, they love the dark side of him so much that they forget that he's 50%. It's 50%, man. Yeah, so I think the ending of the film, where, again, spoilers, but like the bit at the end where the coin goes good side up, I think that's a scene that like I'd always had in my head, and me and my twin brother would be chatting, and I'd be like, oh, do you know what would be a cool Two-Face scene? Would be if he's trying to kill Batman and then the coin goes good side and he can't kill him, he just doesn't kill him. You know what I mean? And it's like, why has there not been that scene? I mean, maybe they have somewhere in some comic somewhere, but I don't remember it. Like, I don't think I've seen it. It's nearly always like he flips the coin, oh, it's bad heads, and then Batman has to defeat him. But it's like, no, that's less interesting to me. So I think in my heart of hearts, I'd always wanted to put that scene down. I'd always wanted to do that. And I think that's probably what led to that. And not only that, obviously, in terms of influence, the way Harvey Dent is depicted in Batman the Animated Series is so amazing, right down to his voice, the Richard Mole voiceover. And then an episode that I think gave me the most inspiration. In fact, it was the one that I sent to Brian Vaughan, who I got to voice Batman. Because it's a Two-Face story, but I was like, this is what I want you to be thinking about when you're being Batman talking to Harvey, which is the episode Second Chance, which I think is the second or maybe third episode, which has Two-Face in it. And it's all about Two-Face being abducted when he's about to have surgery to fix his face. And there's this mystery as to who's trying to get revenge on Two-Face. And then they work in Rupert Thorne, they work in the Penguin. And it's one of those stories where you actually get other rogues from the gallery, but it doesn't feel shoehorned in. Like, it's actually like it's a good crime story. Like, the Penguin's in there. The scene with the Penguin in that is amazing. He's in like jail, but he's got like pigeons in like coops in his cell and stuff. It's fucking crazy. And that was such a good, and that ends with a fight between Bruce and Harvey, which is quite equally matched. And again, ends with Bruce trying to convince Harvey kind of to stop, using the coin, but in a slightly different way. So it's like, I think that was probably a huge influence. I think the best way to do a story about a character that you love is not to try and copy the stories, but to just try and make sure that the characters kind of hold true to, or try and act as if all the stories that you love happened before in their memory. You know what I mean? Like, I like to think that my Batman and my Harvey Dent have gone through the Long Halloween, you know what I mean, together, and they've gone through Second Chance. You know what I mean? Like, there's some kind of emotional memory there. You know, I love the idea of that, like, you know, Bruce shows up and says, like, you know, I'm not going to let you do this, Harvey. And he's, you know, I remember in Batman Forever, my favorite Val Kilmer line in that, because people don't talk about Val Kilmer a lot as like as a great Batman, but I thought he was an amazing Batman. And then, like, you know how, like, there's like one line in Batman Returns where they say that Michael Keaton really did like comic book Batman, which is when he grabs Max Schreck by the face and goes, "Shut up, you're going to jail," or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's like everyone's like, "Oh, that's the scene." You know, in Batman Forever, it's the bit where he smashes through the helicopter and goes, "You need help, Harvey." Like that. It's just like such a great moment. And I always love the fact that he calls him Harvey, not Two-Face. Yeah. That's so great. Yeah. He doesn't call him Two-Face. He calls him Harvey because he loves Harvey. You know what I mean? He's always trying to get to him. He's always trying to get to him, you know? Mm-hmm. So I'd say those are my big influences. Obviously, I've read a lot of comic books over the time. I'm mostly a graphic novel guy, so I was never good at going into comic book shops and regularly getting books because they just end up, I'm such a lazy, slobby person. They just end up disintegrating in my room somewhere, you know? But I love like getting old, ordering like this, the smell of this book is so much wood. It's like a forest. It's like, it's an unbelievable smell. But things like Gotham Central and, Long Halloween and all those books. I went through a big phase of like getting a lot of the classic Batman books like The Dark Knight Returns and Killing Joke and stuff, which are good, but they're not necessarily my favorites. The ones that everyone else always says are like the best. They're not often like they have
good content in them all throughout, but they're not as like pure as other stories that just have like amazing stories and connections that other people don't do.
Yeah. And then when it came to the Ventriloquist, obviously it's from Batman the Animated Series. I'd always had a conversation with my brother about who would play like the Ventriloquist. My fan casting is Tom Hanks. I think Tom Hanks as the Ventriloquist would be amazing.
Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Because you have to love Arnold. You have to love him. You have to think that he's innocent and that Scarface is evil. But then you got Road to Perdition Tom Hanks as like the puppet, you know? And then you've got like this like, but I think it's ruined now because he's going to be Geppetto, isn't he, in the new Disney film. So he's already playing with puppets.
Wait, they're making a Pinocchio film?
Oh yeah, they're making like two. There's a bunch of them.
There's one I think by DreamWorks or something like by another.
Yeah, film company. There's an animated Guillermo del Toro one, I think.
Yeah, and then they have like the Disney. I don't know. I guess Pinocchio is back in comeback season again.
I don't know, man. I like him in Shrek,
also, why would you cast him as Geppetto? He's blatantly Jiminy. Like if you're gonna cast Tom Hanks, you cast him as Jiminy, not Geppetto. You know what? We're going to be here all day if we keep talking about this. But
let Hollywood do its thing.
But yeah, no. So I think I'd always thought the Ventriloquist would be a great character, and also I knew that there was a moment, about a year into making it. So it's 2 years it took to make the film. In my spare time, like just doing it, and it's kind of like my little project to keep me sane. It's a lockdown project, and then there's this moment about halfway through where I realize in my head that I want to put Ventriloquist in it. So it's the film was already half done. I was mostly concentrating on like the Two-Face sequence and all this kind of stuff. And there was that moment when I was thinking to myself, and I was thinking, what does Two-Face? I want him to have two gangs, one that does uptown and one that does downtown. So he's stolen one of the gangs from someone else. Who would he steal it from? And I was like, well, you could go Rupert Thorne or, Falcone or any of these other like human characters. And then I was just like, fuck. And then I realized, oh God, they both have multiple personality disorder. And it just clicked. And I was like, nobody does that as well. Because it's kind of bad writing in that you usually try and get your villains to have contrast. But these guys were like weirdly the same. and I kind of loved that. But then I realized, oh my God, there's going to be so much more work. I'm going to have to tell my girlfriend, like I was so scared. I was like, no, you know what I mean? And I remember telling like a friend of mine who really loves Batman, I was like, I think I might put Ventriloquist in the film. And she was like, do it. Like, don't worry about it. Just do it. Maybe make it a 2-part or something, but do it. You know what I mean? And then inevitably it just kind of, I think it all clicked into place and ended up making kind of a really lovely, I'm really happy with how they go in the story, because he's such an underrated character. Yes. And he fits really well into both a fantasy world and a real world. So there's he could be in the Matt Reeves Batman universe if you wanted to. Like, there's nothing stopping you. And when you've got like Two-Face being all grave and, serious, you've got this hugely fun kind of Joe Pesci-like character who can basically show up. Also, it makes the plot really easy to understand, because if I ever had a line of dialogue that I needed, like, oh God, how do I explain to the audience what's going on? I just have Scarface just come and say it, because he's like, he'll just lay it out, and he'll make fun of the fact that it's an important piece of information, So I think that was my influence. So that's your first question. Obviously, I could go back through all the different influences. There's a lot of different influences in the film, but I think primarily it would have been Batman the Animated Series with a dash of Batman Forever and a bunch of comic books. As for Robin, okay, so I'd like to think if I continued the story. Well, I mean, somebody actually asked me on the internet, they were like, does Robin exist in this world? So even like right now in the this is just one night in Batman's life. I was like, okay, Nightwing is a thing. So it's obviously Nightwing's, Dick Grayson's come and gone. Nightwing is a thing. So it would probably be Tim. If it would probably be Tim. You know what I mean? And that comes out of the fact that I haven't read a lot of the Damian ones. So it's like, I think Damian happened right at a time when I wasn't reading comic books as much. So I'm not that into him. I just don't know him,
So I have a question. So does that mean Jason is dead and becoming Red Hood, or does Jason not exist yet?
Oh, it's interesting. Well, because Jason precedes Tim, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So he's obvious. Yeah.
Dick, Jason, Tim, Damian.
So that's really interesting, because I was thinking the other day that like I'd love to reference Red Hood, but the funny thing about Red Hood, I don't know if you guys agree with this, because stop me if I'm blaspheming or whatever, but every time I ever hear like somebody like what's going to be in the Batman 2 or what's going to be in this, everyone's always like, the fans talking, they're always like Red Hood. They all want it, and it's like my only problem with that is we know exactly what happens in that story. There's no surprises. It's like we'd have to watch an entire film of Robin getting murdered at the beginning and then coming back as Red Hood, because it's the Winter Soldier, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like it's basically the plot of the Winter Soldier, but everyone knows it. So it's like there's nothing new to find. So either someone's going to make a film which completely subverts expectations and people hate it, or they're going to make something that like basically does it but just kind of does it. You know what I mean? So I think I would probably try and act as if it's already happened. Mm-hmm. So I'd say probably Red Hood's out there, but they're not necessarily on speaking terms. That's what I'd say.
That sounds fair. That sounds like
I'd have, because people know it. People know the story so well. You know what I mean?
To be fair, people love Red Hood, not Jason Todd. They don't care because again, they killed Jason Todd because nobody liked him.
The fans fucking killed him. Exactly. The fans literally voted to kill him.
They hated him so much as a Robin. They were like, no, kill him off. But people love Red Hood. Post-fact.
I was actually so honored that Doug, the artist who worked on Red Hood, was it Doug Mankey? I don't know how to pronounce his name. He kind of shared our trailer online on Instagram, and I was so touched. It's unbelievable. I was like that, and I was like, suddenly I started thinking like, oh, I got to draw a Red Hood picture. I got to do a tribute. I got to draw a Red Hood picture, because Red Hood is one of those characters that's kind of like Deathstroke in that like he just looks so cool.
That helmet looks amazing.
But in a way, it means that I feel like I can't bring anything to him. You know what I mean? Like Harvey Dent is so adaptable as a character, whereas like Deathstroke or something, I feel like all you can do is do him well. You know, you can't really bring anything new to him. So you'd have to have a really good reason to bring him in. And like you say, like actually going into the Jason of it all and like trying to work out who he was before he was Red Hood and all this kind of stuff. I also find it really weird. Again, let me know if I'm rambling and like cutting you guys off and stuff. Like, is this what you wanted?
There's actually something I want to talk about, because there's a lot of stuff that like comic fans, when they watched Batman v Superman, when he watched a lot of these like more recent Batman adaptations, is wanting any Robin representation, period.
Yes.
Because like people are just like, oh, where's like anybody? Because we get, if you're talking about most recent, we get a shot of Ben Affleck's Batman looking at the Robin suit, and which is like, I guess it's like Jason, which is like, sure, but that's not what fans want. And so a lot of people, when Matt Reeves finished the Batman, they went out and they saw it and they're just like, oh, cool. So like Robin next movie, right? And, and I was just like, sure. But I feel like the way, if Robin should have been done, if it is going to be done.
Yeah.
I mean, like, hey, I say wait until like a third movie, wait until like maybe the second movie, there's a good way to get him in. But yeah, I feel like if I want a Robin, it has to be done well, especially if it's like,
I got to tell you this, my brother David, who is the voice of Two-Face, by the way, in the film, he's a story genius. Okay. He loves coming up with, he'll do it with just about any fiction that he loves. He doesn't write fan fiction, but he does love, he'll tell me what it is. Like he'll just say to me like, oh, by the way, I came up with a great, Mr. Freeze story. Or I came up with a big thing. And he came up with the perfect way that Christopher Nolan could have done Robin without doing the John Blake thing. And it makes me cry to this day. I think it's such a beautiful way, because he was like, what should have happened is the end of the third film should have ended with Dick Grayson's parents getting killed, because he never would have been able to do Robin like Christopher Nolan. He just never would have been able to do it. But if the last scene of the Dark Knight trilogy was a little Dick Grayson crying in front of Bruce and saying, it was my fault, I saw the guy cutting the rope, it was my fault. And then Bruce says to him, no, it wasn't anything you did. It was him and him alone. And he's echoing what Alfred said to him in Batman Begins. And it's like the same scene. Like that would have been the perfect way of having Robin in that story.
That's really good.
Because you don't need to see it. You just know that like he's found himself again and now he's a father. You know what I mean? Like it makes me cry just thinking about it. It was like such a great idea. I was like, fuck, damn it. That would have been great.
It's really good.
That's how you do it. Just that scene. Imagine Christian Bale just saying that line. No, it was him and it was him alone.
You can't see it, but my jaw hit the floor. I'm not. That was amazing.
Right, well, I got to credit my brother for that. He's a David Trumble, genius story. He loves fixing stories. That's his. He'll watch a movie and he'll be like, okay, I'll fix it. He fixed Jar Jar Binks in one scene. You know what I mean?
Really?
What?
I want to hear that.
Not the Sith Lord.
Okay. No, he fixed him. I swear to God, with one scene, my brother has fixed Jar Jar Binks. Okay. Because we loved episode 1. Like we were real episode 1 apologists. Like we were like 11 or something when it came out, loved it. So here's what David said. You know the bit in the Coruscant when they're together and she says, he's like, user thinking, user people gonna die, kind of that classic line. And she says, I don't know. And he says, well, Gungans get pasted too, right? And she goes, I hope not. And he goes, Gungans no dying without a fight. We're warriors. We've got a grand army. And then that scene leads to them going to Boss Nass, and then Queen Amidala reveals herself by saying, I'm Queen Amidala. This is my handmaiden. And she gets on her knees and says, again, this is my brother's writing. So I'm getting full credit to him. So she gets on her knees and says, I ask you to help us. No, I beg you to help us. We are your humble servants. And she lowers her head. And then when she raises her head, Jar Jar is knelt in front of her. And he says, I never thought I would see the Queen of Naboo kneel before the King of the Gungans. And he is the King of the Gungans. And he's been pretending to be an idiot for the whole film. And so when he said that the Gungans had a grand army, that's him having a head of state unofficial meeting where he gives her the idea of like, hey, if you come back, I'll give you the army. And the idea that he was there the whole time, stowed away on the ship, to see if he could trust her, to see if he could trust the Queen of Naboo, because they obviously the two species don't trust each other. You know what I mean? And it would have been this wonderful little, like both of them have been pretending to be somebody else the whole time. And, he doesn't even speak like that. Like he's really funny and smart, like, you know what I mean? And then he goes and he leads the army at the end and he doesn't like surrender and shit and all that crazy stuff. You know what I mean? And I remember thinking like, that's actually brilliant. It would have been so great. I think the only problem with Jar Jar, apart from the obvious, there's a lot wrong with him. I mean, nothing against the actor at all. But the real problem is that he has no arc. Like he's not really brave at the end. It's like I would have been happy just if Jar Jar had been brave at the end, and just said, "Come on, guys, we're not gonna surrender." That would have been an arc to me. I would have been okay with it. But anyway, that's how my brother would have done it.
That's beautiful.
That's really cool.
That would make Jar Jar actually very badass.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't take away from Padme at all, because she still kneels before him. She still, she is this young girl in this position, and she kneels before a king and she asks him and she humbles herself, and then she leads her people, and he is inspired by that, and that's what convinces him. I think that would have been a really lovely way of doing it. You know what I mean?
That would have been awesome. Shout out to your brother. That's good writing right there.
Yeah. He's a story artist now. He works in animated movies and stuff. So he's always basically always talking about like story, like the way things fit together and stuff. So he's a very interesting guy. Really cool. Does that answer your question about Robin? Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Any more questions? What else you got?
I guess because we were also talking about before we started recording is like, how did you feel about the Batman and like how they sort of portrayed Reeves's version of Batman?
I loved it. I really liked it. As I said, I kind of was hardwired to like it, because watching the trailer for it inspired this crazy project of mine that like 2 years of my life went into, and then like finished it. And so it's like, and I went and watched it on my birthday with Claire and David. So my brother and my partner, both of whom are now involved in the film, and my birthday's on March the 6th, so just a month before we finished the film. And so we went on our birthday, me and my brother, twins, we went on our birthday. And I was so stressed because I was just like, oh God, this has to be good. Because if it isn't, what have I been doing with my life? It was kind of crazy. And it was wonderful. It was just everything I wanted it to be. I understand that there's some people who are like, kind of the Robin thing. They're just kind of upset that like, you want to see Clayface, you want to see the fantastical character, you want to see, Ra's al Ghul, but like he has lived for hundreds of years, everyone wants that. But I think I was just buying what it was selling, big time. And I really loved the way it ended. I loved him lighting up the flare and saving people and realizing that that's what he's supposed to do as well. Because like some people have been, people ask me a bit about like what inspired my version of Batman. And really he's kind of like, the way I see Batman in my head is he has to be the type of guy who could hold up a mob boss by his, lapels and growl at him, but also be able to give a thumbs up to like a little kid. You know what I mean? And reassure them.
And
you know what I mean?
Has candy in his utility belt.
That's a terrible idea. If that's how he gets the Robins, he should be in jail. Like that's really, really bad stuff. Guys, do not accept candy even from Batman.
I think in a show, actually, I think there was an animated show that actually showed him having lollipops and stuff in his utility belt.
That's so funny. What was that like during like the Little Chum kind of era or something? Was that like the Hanna-Barbera?
Recent. I can't remember how recent. I just like it's always installed in the back of my mind because of just how
that's
random
so funny.
It was. Like the moment I think he's talking to Superman and he just goes out on like they're talking to a kid and he's like, I got this, and he pulls out candy and I'm like, why?
Yeah. But like even Batfleck has that moment with the little girl, doesn't he? Where he comforts the little girl. Like you have to be able to believe that he can do that. And so I think. Here's something that kind of bugs me about the way some people see Batman is that obviously everyone loves like the Punisher. They love Red Hood. They love all these characters that are killers, essentially. murderers, which is cool. You know, you can like a murderer, it's all good. Like, and often nearly all, like the same with like Venom and the Punisher, they always have a black with a white symbol. It's just like really easy. It's just like, as long as they got a cool t-shirt, they're the bad, you know what I mean? Yeah. The one thing I feel about Batman is that like, people seem to have been trying to make Batman a killer for as long as I can remember, but he isn't, you know what I mean? And so they surround him with killers. You know, now his son is a ninja assassin who kills people. His ex-Robin is an assassin who kills people. Catwoman is like, he's like his main love interest, and she kills people, and Talia kills people. Yeah. They all kill people. And it's like almost as if everyone's just willing, like how can I still get my murder, you know, Jones while watching Batman? And I think what Matt Reeves' film really did very well was it kind of managed to, as much as it's such a hotly debated thing, like, you know, as I say, I can enjoy Batfleck. I can enjoy, you know, I love Ben Affleck in the role. I think he did great. I didn't necessarily like the films that he was in.
Yeah,
like,
it was unfortunate.
His interpretation was awesome, yes.
I think it was just very unfortunate what they did to him.
I think it's really funny because it's like, I remember when he and Gal Gadot were cast, and my feeling was like, oh, they're going to be great. But everyone else on the internet was like, oh my God, these are the worst castings ever. You know, everyone was just like, oh my God, Ben Affleck's Batman and Gal Gadot from the Fast Furious films. Like everyone was like throwing hate on them. And then they turned out to be the best thing in that film. Like both of them. Like the moment she shows up like that, and it's just like, fuck. And like, you know, Hans Zimmer's score kicks in. And then Batfleck himself in the warehouse, you're like, they're the best things in the film. And the thing I always say about Batman versus Superman, because I know that a lot of people love it, and I'm completely okay with that. It's like I liked everything in the film except the film itself. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Everything, every single ingredient I liked, but I just found the film so hard to watch. It was just really like there's something kind of overwhelmingly depressing about it. You know what I mean? And just the way it was cut together just kind of didn't gel with me.
Yeah, don't get me started about Henry Cavill's Superman, man. Oh,
right, okay. Right.
Oh,
I mean, he gets a lot of love. He gets a lot of love, you know? He gets a lot of love. Yeah. So I think Matt Reeves did a kind of a clever about turn with that, in that he basically made it like, no, this guy is brutal. He is brutal. He'll break your face, you know? And if anything, he needs to be stopped before he does kill someone. You know what I mean? Like that bit at the end where he's beating the henchman, and then the henchman says, "I'm vengeance," with blood all over his face, and you're like, "Oh fuck, that's who you could be." And then he goes and saves the people with the flare, and that's when I started crying in the cinema, because I was like, that's what he does. I was trying to explain it to people. I was like, because he's Batman, and that's his main thing. He's supposed to save people. He doesn't just hurt people; he saves people too. That's half of his job. You know what I mean? I loved it. I loved the Batmobile. I loved Zoe Kravitz. I loved all the cast. I loved Jeffrey Wright as Gordon. I thought he was amazing.
Yeah, that was really
I said
good.
That for our podcast. I said that obviously some people may be uncomfortable with the fact that they changed race.
I think that's dumb, man.
No, but I said the way they did it was perfect, because they changed his race, but they didn't make it a whole spiel about it. They just changed it and kept him James Gordon, and I love that. I was like, don't worry about having to address it to other people. Who cares about their opinion? Make the character great, and they fucking killed it.
It's like I always remember something that Ralph Garman said on Fat Man on Batman once, where they were talking about the John Blake Robin reveal in The Dark Knight Rises, and he was like, and Kevin Smith said, well, what would you want to see in a future film? And Ralph Garman was like, how about just do the story right? You know, how about just do the story? You know what I mean? Like there's nothing wrong with it. Like all you gotta do is you don't have to do a clever take on Jim Gordon. Just make him Jim Gordon, and it will work. Exactly. And he really was. Like there's a bit that almost made me cry in the cinema when he just says, "Oh, I only trust you." He just says it really, really like offhandedly. And I was like, you've only known him a year, man. You know, like I was like, you know, like he's only known him for a year, and already he's the only person. He doesn't even know who he is, and he trusts him more than anyone else. And that's like says so much to me. That's exactly who they are. And like I could have watched, like people say the film is like, oh, it's 3 hours. I could have watched like 5 hours, just him and Gordon hanging out, you know, and him just being like, you know,
they have to have a true buddy cop movie with just Batman and Jim as like the centerpiece. Because their scenes together was just phenomenal. It was just perfect for me.
Honestly,
there was a bit,
I ship them more than I ship Batman with Catwoman.
Well, okay, no, actually, my girlfriend kind of agrees.
Romance kicking.
My girlfriend actually kind of agrees with you because she was like, he keeps grabbing her arm, man. You can't do that, you know? Because like, no, seriously, and it's so true because like, and I think that if I ever did like a film that had Catwoman in it, I would have to do this thing that my girlfriend said. My girlfriend said that scene would have been great if he grabbed Selena by the arm and she just put her claws right up in his throat and just been like, get your fucking hands off me. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, I mean, obviously they killed it and they have great chemistry and it's a great film. But yeah, I think, Jim, I love that he calls him man. It makes me laugh so much. He says it like 8 times in the first 10 minutes. He goes, hey man, you know, I almost want there to be a scene where like Batman's like, you keep calling me man. You know what I mean? And he's like, yeah. Is that okay? And Batman's just like, no, I like it. I like it.
I'll allow it.
keep calling me man. I love you too.
What if that's how it creates Batman? He's just like, man, I'm a...
It's either the bat or vengeance. And like, no, just add the man. That was the plot of the film. He was always vengeance, the bat. He needed to light up that flare and become man. So I absolutely loved his performance. I thought it was and of course Pattinson himself did great. Like I knew he was going to be good. Like it's one of those things where it's like, you look at that guy's face, and it's designed to be in a cowl. Like he's literally got a quadrilateral face. You know what I mean? Like it's a perfect cube. It's perfect for the cowl. You know.
I had the pleasure of just not watching any of his work. So I had zero expectation for him to be good. So I knew he was in The Lighthouse. I still need to watch that movie. And there's a lot of other good stuff he was in. I just never watched it. And I only knew him because as a kid, Twilight was like the biggest thing around when it came to movies. And I was just like, man, please be good. And I had this low expectation of him. And then when I went to go watch it, I was just like, perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. So that was good for me to have that low expectation to just be subverted to just be spectacular.
Yeah. I'm very happy. I'm very glad that we'll be in that creative team's hands for at least the next 2 movies. You know, just make a good trilogy and get out. You know what I mean? Like everyone always wants more, don't they? They always want like, when's the next thing? What are you teasing in the future? And it's like, no, just do it. Just do 3 great films and out. So but don't have him retire at the end. That's my only proviso. Yeah. No Batman retiring, please.
So that brings up another thing that I wanted to mention was like, when it comes to Batman, you're talking about films and cinema, it's always connected to, so what's the greater universe? And like a conversation that immediately happened the first week of Batman releasing was like, oh, sweet. So this is like its own universe, right? Which is like, sure. What's your take on it? Because like I always thought that they should just worry about making good movies first before building that universe. And I just wanted to know what you thought about that.
Well, I mean, how do they do it in the comics? It's Elseworlds, isn't it? It's you got Sean Murphy comes and does White Knight. That's its own thing. Every artist who does Batman does their own thing. That's one thing that I really loved about doing a Batman thing was that Batman is possibly the most adaptable character in fiction. Like you couldn't do a Christopher Nolan Spider-Man. Like you couldn't do Spider-Man. He gets bit. He doesn't even get bitten by a spider, and he just fights crime, And like Dr. Octopus is like, you couldn't do it. It's not possible. Whereas like Batman can be done as a live action film with no fantastical elements in it, or it can be done as the most fantastical. And every single artist, even in the comics, every time you see Batman, unless it's like one of the official New 52, like they have to keep the same costume design or whatever. If somebody comes in and does like a one-off, like a one-shot, they always get to make their own Batmobile. They always get to make their own Bat symbol. They always get to make their own Bat cowl, Bat suit. And like, that was like the fun of making a short. Cause I was like, oh God, I get to do mine. I get to come up with my own symbol, my own car, my own thing. And it's like other people can be like, oh, I like it or I don't like it, but it's okay because it's just my one. You know what I mean? If you're a fan of Batman Dying is Easy, you like that one. You know what I mean? Like if you're a fan of Christopher Nolan, you like that one. They've got all these different iconography, but it's all Batman. As long as it holds true to the character, you don't think about it. So I don't. And also you're so right. They should just be making good movies. Like it's unbelievable to me how it's unbelievable to me how like difficult people find it to make these superhero worlds. And it's just like, well, you've got Batman, you've got Superman, you've got Wonder Woman. All we needed was a really good Batman film, a really good Superman film, and a really good Wonder Woman film. And you've already got the Trinity.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. Like, just make good films and you've got them, you know? And then, you know, a Nightwing, like, you know, I know that they've got like Titans, but I think just making like a Nightwing animated TV show would just fucking...
I think that was in the works from the people that made the Batman the animated series.
Right. I mean, that would have been great. It would have. I mean, it would have been great. He's. I think I've heard someone say. I can't remember who it was, but someone said he's about as likable and interesting as Peter Parker. Like, you could just make. He's got that same energy. You know what I mean? That young energy. You know what I mean?
To be fair, Dick is a little cooler because he goes to different extremes that we wouldn't see like Spider-Man do, and they have different things that. So you could love both of them, or you could love either one for a certain aspect, and that's what's fun about the characters. They're these young adults trying to have more responsibility that they're supposed to, and everybody can love that story.
Yeah, and at the same time, Dick is only as cool as you can be while still having been raised in a circus. Like, he's still a bit of a and like when he's being Dick Grayson, he was a bit of a dweeb. You know, he always had those cotton sweaters and stuff. You know, he was always like, you know, Dick Grayson, the boy wonder, like you know, sent to the best schools and being like, you know, essentially a bit of a nerd. You know, so I think. You're right. It's people really respond to those characters. Like, I think I saw a piece of news saying that Amanda Waller is getting her own show.
Yep, she's getting her own show with James Gunn.
But I'm like I love Viola Davis. I love Amanda Waller as a character. But like, why are people going so far afield in terms of characters? Like, it's like, oh, well, what can we do that nobody's seen? It's like, oh, well, let's do. You know, they did that show which was Alfred when he was young.
Yeah.
You know,
Pennywise.
Pennywise. Yeah, Pennywise. And you're just like, why? You have the characters. Just make a really good Batman film, a really good Wonder Woman film, and then throw in Green Lantern while you're at it and just do it. It's like it's almost like they're trying to find like, what's the most roundabout way that we can get people to like what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, as much as that would probably be quite interesting to see an Amanda Waller show, you know, she has a really, really fascinating character, and she deals with all the superheroes. So she's like, there would be a lot of cool cameos and stuff. But at the same time, it's like, why are we watching a spin-off of a spin-off of a spin-off? You know what I mean? You could just make the original film that you're supposedly being spun off from. You know, it's really funny. It's really funny.
So I have a question. Since we're going off spin-offs and future directions that certain studios should take, do you plan on continuing this Batman universe? Do you plan on like making a different character? What are your plans with what you've created so far and the future of it? Well,
firstly, I've said this about a few films that have been made in history that aren't even mine. The victory is that it exists at all. Like just the fact that I finished it is unbelievable. I'm always starting projects. I'm always trying to do things, and this is probably the first project that I've like finished in like 10 years. Like, I'm really, really so happy that it's done and that people like it. And a lot of people have been saying like, oh, I'd love to see more, blah blah blah. You know, I have an Instagram account where I'm always drawing superheroes and superhero characters. So I feel like if you wanted to see the expanded world, you know, I'll often draw. It's like if I did a Jason Todd picture, that would probably be my design of Jason Todd that you would see in a future Broken Promise film if one did exist. I think because obviously Claire, my partner who did the amazing score for this film, she's going to release that, by the way, at some point. So do follow her because her stuff is amazing. She was kind of like, okay, I can already tell that you're already like planning the next one in your head, but take a break. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm going to have like a big nap, essentially. I'm going to have a big nap. But obviously, you know, as I said, I've had little ideas in my head for like years and years. Me and my brother would get together and say, like, my brother has probably one of the most amazing Mr. Freeze stories that I've ever heard. Like, I'd have to, if I ever did an adaptation of that, I'd have to like ask to like steal it from him or to have him co-write it or something, you know. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep learning, keep animating, you know, and I'll probably try and make like an animated film every year or every couple of years, but a lot shorter. Or I'll do like a little sequence, or I'll do like a little scene, and if in like a year's time I feel like I want to make another one, I could, and I feel like I would enjoy doing it, and especially if it meant I got to kind of shine some light on some other characters that haven't been given like their due in a while. I mean, I'd love to do a follow-up, but I'd probably make it like, it wouldn't be a feature film. It would be like, because the one thing I love about Broken Promise is it's kind of like a one shot. You know what I mean? It's 15 minutes, so it's like one issue. One issue. It's like Batman Ego. You know what I mean? You got like one story, one night of his life, and it kind of we don't need to continue Harvey's story. I think I kind of said everything I needed to say about him. Obviously, I'd love to give David a cameo because he was so good in the role. But I think if I did do more, they'd be like an anthology. It'd be like Batman Gotham Knights or something. You know what I mean? Where there's like a bunch of different films, different villains, and each one is kind of its own thing. And like I already know, I'm the type of guy who you plant the seed and it's already like I already have like a bunch of ideas.
To grow and bloom.
But what I've done is I've done a bunch of projects where I've done one thing and it's gone really well, and then I get so excited by it, I jump straight into the next thing, and then I burn out. So I don't want to do that, So I think I'm going to definitely take some time off. I'm going to keep drawing, keep doing stuff on Instagram, keep animating. I'm like, I had a cool idea for like a Daredevil fight. I'd love to do a Daredevil fight.
Yes.
But I might do that. I don't think I'd do it as like a whole film, but I might just do like the long take fights you get in the Daredevil show. I'd just do like something that was that long.
Just something fun.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So, I had like a Lord of the Rings idea that like blew my mind, and I was like, "Fuck, am I gonna do a Lord of the Rings film next?" Like I was just like freaking out.
Anything can happen. That's good.
I've promised my girlfriend that we're definitely gonna do a Christmas movie at some point because she loves Christmas so much. She's like, she just wants to make a film that's set in Christmas Town. You know what I mean? So I'm sure I'll do something like that at some point. I've got a bunch of ideas that I want to do that have like original characters and stuff that isn't copyrighted and all this kind of thing. Yeah. But no, if you plant the seed, I'm always going to be thinking of Batman ideas because I love it so much. So I can see it happening. I just can't say it's happening now. Yeah.
I gotta grab the opportunity because if I see an opportunity, I have to go for it. But like you've seen before, I am trying to become a voice actor. Gabe also does amazing voices, and so do Sean and Lasso. So if you need anybody, we will do it.
Amazing.
No questions asked. You just tell us, hey, I need this type of voice. We'll instantly do it for you.
Listen, I'm already Tim Drake, so if you need a Tim Drake, I got you.
Oh, really? Where are you Tim Drake?
I am.
So, do you want me to explain it?
Are you done audio?
Oh yeah, go for it.
So Laszlo, actually, he so we play video games, and what he does is he writes a whole script, and we use the video game to record scenes of stuff that we just like. And he does amazing work at just thinking of an idea, like Power Rangers, his own story. He'll go on the video game, create the characters, make them look as alike as possible, and then he'll get one of us, or he'll look for people online to do the voices. So that's why we do. And
God,
the Bane stuff actually came from him. He's like, yo, you have a deep Hispanic voice. You could go, make your,
because he's so underappreciated, man.
It's so what Bane needs as well. It's like we're so overdue, like a proper Hispanic Bane. You know what I mean? Like OG Bane. I completely agree.
The whole luchador look, and Macho Bane.
Exactly. Although, like, because I saw your thing and I was like, that's actually really good, and you had that kind of intensity, that kind of roided up intensity. But then I'm like, but I want to hear what he's like when he's being cold, soft, calculating Bane before he shoots up. You know what I mean?
Hey, don't worry.
So I might get you to do another reading.
Go ahead.
You could go.
Or to interject a little bit, I completely love how you like a lot of properties, when they do like Batman or like Spider-Man or just any character, they fail at getting how like seamless his rogues gallery of like C tier and lesser villains are there. Yeah. I'm not saying, Ventriloquist isn't like a big villain or anything.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
He's not like, the
he's
first
not recognized,
pick.
No, which is tragedy.
I even go to that lengths, doing my own properties, like he was mentioning the Batman project. It's a completely Bat family film. It has just about every Bat family character you can think of, from Dick Grayson all the way to Betty Kane from the very first comic books.
Oh my God, crazy.
And the main villain it's not what you'd expect. It's not Joker. It's it's literally Red X. That's the main villain.
Wow.
No one would expect Red X, So
yeah. I don't even think I know exactly who that is. Who is that? Like, I'm gonna Google that.
In I'm talking about Teen Titans, right?
Teen Titan thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was Robin's persona when he was working under Deathstroke.
Wow.
Yeah, he gave that up, and then someone else in the Teen Titans show. No one. It was never confirmed who it was.
Nobody explicitly knows who, but someone took the mantle and became a villain of the Teen Titans, and they're adding him to. They added him now to the DC comic universe, but the problem is there's a total of 4. So there's Dick Grayson, then there's 2 that we never know who they are, and then we find out that the last one was the son of Dick Grayson that Dick Grayson didn't know he had.
What? What the fuck?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, spoiler.
Spoilers, yeah.
You mean that Dick Grayson is not a virgin? This is mind blowing.
He couldn't keep it in his pants. Who would have thought?
That's amazing. I love that. That's so great. Okay, that's amazing. Yeah, I love the idea of using lesser known characters. I mean, like I love coming up with combinations of characters, because like in I think it was actually again Batman Forever, which was what made me love villains interacting with each other. So like that first scene where Two-Face goes and visits the Riddler. No, the Riddler visits Two-Face, and they're kind of walking around each other. That's like catnip to me. So like, even in like the Dark Knight, when it's like the Joker and Harvey in the hospital room, and he basically creates Two-Face, he does his first flip, and it's the flip for the Joker, but the Joker gets good heads. You know what I mean? And that means that he gets to live. And it's like, that is the Joker being perfect, a perfect representation of the Joker, someone who's willing to die to turn somebody else crazy. And Harvey Dent becoming Two-Face. And me and my brother were just like, oh, I love it when the villains interact. You know what I mean? And so like, you think about the Ventriloquist, in my head, I'm already thinking like, you mix Batman and Superman villains. Imagine if like Ventriloquist teamed up with Toy Man or something like that. You know what I mean?
That'd be
like,
amazing.
How crazy would that be? You know what I mean?
Mini Scarface is just shooting everybody up.
Exactly. Or Ventriloquist versus the other ventriloquist, the one who can say they're bees and has a female ventriloquist, and she's like Scarface's girlfriend. Then you got like 2 Scarfaces, or what if like Arnold got to be Arnold, but like not with Scarface, and it's like the female ventriloquist and Scarface versus Arnold without Scarface, like that kind of thing. I love thinking of those things. Like I also think when you talk about Bat Family, I think whenever I think about like other stories that I could do or whatever, it's like I want to bring in more villains, but I also want to bring in more heroes. You know what I mean? Like I'd love to kind of think about like who like the team is, and kind of not even have to spend ages on them. You just kind of know that they're out there. Right. It's kind of like the question you asked earlier was like, is Robin around and who is it? And if that Robin is there, then it means a bunch of other Robins are already around somewhere. We just don't know where they are. But does that answer your question well enough about incorporating villains and stuff? Tell me again about about your projects that you were doing with the Teen Titan characters and stuff.
Oh, you want me to say?
Yeah.
So basically, the storyline is it's coming. I want to release it around October. Kind of get that little Halloween Batman feel. But the storyline is basically Red X. Again, it's this mysterious character that not even fans of the original Titan show know who he is. So there's obviously that mystery of Batman, the ultimate detective, trying to figure out who this man is that no one knows. He puts a bounty on Bruce's head, and he also reveals his entire identity to the entire Rose Gallery of Gotham. So you got characters from every nook and cranny of Gotham City just going after Bruce. Obviously, some knows where he lives, so they blow up the manor. A lot of other huge things happen, and
that's
then you
a big
just
swing,
see,
man.
Like I had to do it because, like, there's often times in cinema where it's like you have even Matt Reeves' Batman, for example. You have chances where you can take that plunge to do a story or do some characters that never really get that shine. Like, for example, Batman Year One. We've had quote unquote origin stories of Batman, but we never really had a Year One Batman story. We don't see that full transition.
Funny, yeah, we don't get. Yeah, like, that's one of the things that was so great about the Batman. It's like a Year Two story, you know? And it's like you can't even argue over whether or not he's Batman or not, because he's only just becoming.
He's still figuring it out.
Yeah, he's trying to learn, and we see that because a lot of the complaints I hear about the Batman, like I said, the only big issue for me was how long it was, especially since we went to watch it at 3 in the morning. But so I'm exhausted. I wanted it to end quicker. But the thing is, I loved how they did Bruce, because Bruce didn't know what he had to do. He grew up with Alfred secluded. Then he trained under Ra's al Ghul. So he never knew what a billionaire is supposed to do. He's just, I get to kick ass, do what I want, and nobody can stop me. But here we get to learn, like, no, slowly you have to appease the public and stuff like that and appear in places. So
there's a process.
So he, you know, you even see it with Alfred. He's actually doesn't know how to form close connections with people yet. There's that scene in the hospital when he basically is like, his face is almost not moving. Like, it's brilliant acting. Like, and I've been in those situations, you know, like I'm quite pro like mental health conversation and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, I know what it's like when you feel a certain way that you can't even move your face. You're so, locked into a certain feeling. And there's that scene in the hospital bed with Alfred where he's just like, you know, I thought I could just do this, you know, but I realized that I love people, you know, essentially, I love you. So he doesn't even really say it, but he's basically saying, you're someone who's important to me, which means I do have something to lose. You know what I mean? And it's like, he's hasn't grown up, you know, he's been stunted since the age of, you know, 7 or 8. And I think that was very intelligent to show, because it's almost like he has to be trained how to be a person who could fall in love with Catwoman and have a son and have multiple sons. And, you know, there's only so many, you know, like it's like Gordon's his best mate, but he doesn't even know his fucking name, and they solve crimes together. You know, that's his best friend, you know, in the whole world, you know? So I think that's very cool. But, you know, I completely agree about, you know, I love the idea of creating things. And as you say, like doing a big swing, like, you know, and what it's kind of like the Sean Murphy White Knight thing, like, you know, I'm going to make it so everyone knows that he's Batman, you know, like, and then they blow up the mansion and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's great. You know, what's the point in doing it if you're just going to do it exactly, you know, how, you know, because that's the beauty of comics, is that comics, you know, every comic you read is like its own little thing. And if you don't like it, you don't have to read it. You know, some other person will love it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's...
I just personally... Oh, go ahead.
No, please. No, what were you going to say?
Oh, I just love how, like, unexpected things can be. And, like, again, like you mentioned with the big swing, personally, even though a lot of people don't like the character, I can kind of understand. But my personal favorite is from the Bat family, Duke Thomas. I love the character.
Yeah.
But unfortunately... Yeah. I'm realistic. I know we'll never get him on the big screen. It's very, very slim
I wouldn't
chance.
say never, man. That's, I mean, you never know these days.
Yeah, but at the same time, Warner Brothers is more concerned about giving Viola Davis a 6th episode instead of Duke Thomas. You know, like he's daytime Batman. Like there's so much content you can make on a character like that, or like Jason Todd in the Outlaws. There's so much stuff you can do.
Yeah.
And direct
I would love an Outlaw series.
Exactly. I want to see Jensen Ackles as
amazing. Oh my God, that'd be crazy. Like, just after he's finished up with Supernatural and stuff, like, yeah, like he's kind of aged into the role, and yeah, he's got all the voiceover stuff as well. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
It's just unfortunate that we'll never get those chances. And me personally, I love to create content to where it's like, I grew up as a fan of some of these characters that I know in 20, 25 years, they may have the slight possibility of being on the screen. I want to give people that opportunity now to see. It might not be the high or the biggest budget. It might not be the highest production, but you'll get something, you know, you'll be able to see something.
If I had to give any piece of advice to anyone wanting to do anything, you know, like this, it's just 2 things. It's just, make sure you've written the script before you start animating.
Almost definitely.
and just lean into your limitations, you know, like, you know, it's free, you know, they don't have to click on it. You know, someone could say, oh, I didn't like this element, but it's not for sale, so it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's just something that you did because you wanted to do it. You know, you wanted other people to like it. And if they like it, they'll let you know. But if they didn't like it, then they can move on. You know, that's the beautiful thing about it. I think I saw a TED talk about this like 10 years ago, where it was like a read-write culture. You know, there used to be like a read culture, you know, where you just, you know, stuff gets made and then you read it. But then before that, back in the time of like, you know, people stood in front of castles telling stories or doing marionette shows or whatever, they would hear a story and then they'd retell it. And that's how stories spread. You know what I mean? And so I feel like the way we're living in today on the internet is that we've re-embraced other people being able to tell stories and just pass them on. It doesn't matter. It's just how we're choosing to spend our time. But it's good. It's well spent time. You know, it's good fun. You know. Anyway, that was my inspirational spiel. It's all done now.
It was strong.
Thanks, man.
So, when it comes to you as an artist, where do you want to see yourself? What do you want to do that you think will make you at least feel content or happy?
Okay. That's a great question. That is a great question. I'll start by saying this. My experience in life, in the 36 years that I've been alive, is that being content is overrated. People want to feel like they're moving forwards, you know? So if you're trying to get somewhere where you're like, oh, if only I get this, if only this happens, if only I get this job, or if I get this thing or relationship or anything, you know, then everything will be fine. I'll be blissfully happy. You're not going to be happy. That's not how it works. The happiest times in my life has always been when I'm excited about what's happening tomorrow, you know? Yeah. Or just like, oh, I'm doing something. Oh, if I feel alive, I'm doing something. You know what I mean? No, I don't want to be sat in a rocking chair unless I'm in the Dominican Republic looking out over an ocean. That would be, you know, but that lasts a week and then I have to get back to work.
That's its own thing.
I think that's a good excuse right there.
Yeah. So I'd say for me personally, I love where I am right now. I love being an artist. I love that I finished this. You know, and I want to finish a lot more things in future. And any opportunities that come my way, especially when it comes to art and animation, I will be very, very open to. So I'd love to, you know, if someone came along with like a great job offer or a great thing, you know, I'd definitely be up for it. It's one of those things where I think because I was a storyboard artist for 10 years, I went to film school. I specialized as a director, which basically means if you specialize as a director in film school, it means that you leave university with 0 qualifications. That's the thing that's the, you know, like become a cinematographer, become an editor. Those guys have jobs. Directors, like if someone says to you, you're a director, what's your skill? You go, I tell other people what I want it to look like. You know, like that's essentially your skill. Yeah. You know, I think that my ideas are better than other people's ideas. You know what I mean? Like that's essentially the thing. And so I have been drawing since the age of 2. And so I actually have been limping on through the last 10 years of my life, slowly earning more and more money as a storyboard artist, you know, and, you know, doing concept art and storyboards, mostly in commercials. And the thing that was so depressing about that, I mean, obviously, you know, it's my bread and butter and I do love it and I still do it. It's the fact that nobody saw it because it's concept. It's you know, if you do an advert for, you know, a company, they don't release an art of the advert book like Star Wars or Batman. You know, no one's going to ever see the thing that you did, you know. And so I think as an artist, I would be so happy if from this point on, I got to make art that at least people saw, you know? And it just feels like it's out there. Like the Batman Broken Promise is out. It's just out, you know? There's nothing, there's like, we released it last week and I don't have to touch it ever again. I don't have to do another picture ever again. I don't have to do another sequel or anything. It's already done, you know, but people see it, you know? And that I think is truly, it's, you know, it doesn't have to be successful in every single way, but I just, you know, I think as an artist, it's always been a bit heartbreaking to me when I think, all I do is draw, you know, pictures of happy families eating hamburgers that are just so that some director can get money from a producer to make the advert, you know, and, you know, it pays the way, but I think ultimately what I would love to do is to just like, I'd love to do a comic. I'd love to do a cover. Like if somebody said that, oh, we like your artwork, come and do a cover. That would be I could die. You know, I would be happy just doing that. You know,
interesting.
But like that's essentially it. Like I just feel like I'm quite happy now. You know, I'm in a good relationship, good terms with my family, and you know, happy with my living situation. And I've just made this film, and I feel good. You know, like, but you know, I'm not content. I just feel I'm moving forward, you know.
You feel good, yeah.
I feel good, you know, and yeah. Don't go chasing the oh, everything will be okay if only this, because that just leads to bitterness and resentfulness, I think, you know.
I think no one can be 100% content with what they're doing, because there's always something to drive and strive for. And I think that's what's the most amazing thing about the creative type of people, who they're just like always envisioning something new. And that's what it is, and that's why I love movies. That's why I love comics, and that's why I love when people push out new ideas.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, I'm excited to hear your Robin voice. Actually, I want to hear all this stuff now. It's really fun.
You think that's good? You should hear his Peter Parker.
That's really? Wow. Oh, no. That's so cool. That's so cool, man. Yeah.
Now I'm ready. Now I gotta turn off my camera.
We gotta let the man blush for a little bit. Well,
that's very Peter Parker of him. So it's all good.
Just add some blue. He's all good.
Yeah.
But again, thank you so much for coming. The fact that I shot a message at you, and I was like, I don't know if he's gonna respond, but fuck it. I see an opportunity. I'm gonna take it. And as soon as you responded and you were happy to join, I got super excited.
As long as you're not some kind of like, you know, crazy Riddler-esque extremist party, then I'm very happy to talk to you. You know what I mean? Like,
who doesn't love a good Riddler?
Yeah, exactly. Don't forget the Kling film. Yeah. I think secretly, in my heart of hearts, I've always just wanted other people to invite me on podcasts and talk about geeky shit. So it's been a pleasure.
We could have you for more podcasts. We could definitely like join yours. You talked about love, and hey, man, I love talking about philosophical topics, so I wouldn't mind joining at all.
Listen, when the next Batman movie comes out, or like the next Batman project comes out, we're for sure going to reach out to you and ask like if you want to jump on and talk about it with us.
Oh, fuck yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's the type of conversations I'd be having anyway. We just have the mics rolling. So yeah, that sounds great. Fantastic. Yeah, I'd love to. Cheers. Thanks so much, guys. It's so nice thanks for having me.
No, thank you, man. It's
and
been
lovely
an honor.
Questions as well. Really nice questions. Thank you. I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No. It was fantastic. We got to actually know you as a person and know you as an artist. And I think that's our goal. Usually we call these series the Get to Know. And it's just for the simple fact that you want to know someone who cares about art, someone who cares about a fandom, and just know them. There's no other thing. It's just knowledge.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
But do it as Peter Parker.
That's a challenge.
He got you.
I should have done the intro.
Oh God!
You can be Scorpion. And
ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoy the video. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Also, we have a YouTube channel called Showtime Nerds. It would be really great if you guys subscribed. If you don't want to, that's okay, I guess. So yeah, we'll see you all later. Take care. Bye.
10 out of 10. Bye, guys.